Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, hey, hey. I'm excited to jump into our challenge this morning. Let me tag everyone and let y'all know I'm here. I'm in the building. I am excited about our topic because I feel like most people don't get to go this deep into like what is normal. Like we focus on what's abnormal, right? Versus like what would a normal period look like? If I'm trying to repair my period, like what am I trying to actually aspire to do? What should I want it to look like? So I'm excited about a topic. Before we jump in, just in case the people that are new to me, I want to take a moment to just introduce myself and what I do. So, my name is Yasmin Minifield. I am a holistic health coach, a full spectrum doula, and a modern day medicine woman. So, I help women heal their wombs, reverse PCOS, and rise into their full power as divine feminine leaders, goddesses, mothers, and matriarchs. So that's what I do, why I'm here, because I want your health to improve so you can have enough energy to create the life that you desire and want in your heart and soul. So it's important for me to give you those keys to improving your health, to feeling like you can step into your personal power. So that's who I am. Who you are is hopefully a woman that is either diagnosed with PCOS or is dealing with another womb health issue, such as fibroids or endometriosis, that has inspired you to join this group so you can get support. Um, as we go through this 7-day challenge together, our focus is to learn what should the period repair process look like? What do I need to focus on that are those key things to understand and do? So you'll see this live broadcast each day for the next 7 days. You'll see a daily post that will help you in ditching sugar and processed foods, which is a big part of why we have period problems and where the breakdown happens in our normal process with our hormones. So in those everyday posts, you will see a challenge to challenge you in giving up that sugar and detoxing for a week from sugar, which will help you as you continue in your efforts to let sugar and processed foods go. So in these daily lives, I'll be talking about strictly your period, those keys to repairing it and what we need to focus on. And you'll see some tidbits posted in the event space where you'll see what to do to apply what we're talking about in these Facebook groups. All right, so I hope that's clear. Let's jump into today's topic. So, what is a hormone imbalance, right? But what is normal? So, we're talking about those two things today. Let's jump into it. So, in order to define a healthy period, we want to talk about what the timing of a healthy cycle, in order to define a hormonal imbalance, we want to talk about the definition of a healthy cycle and really break down what's happening at each major juncture of your menstrual cycle where you have hormonal fluctuations that it will either lead to a positive experience or to many painful and unpleasant symptoms, not just when you're bleeding, but at other times in the month. So let's jump in. The timing of a healthy cycle is determined by 3 important events in your ovaries. First, your ovarian follicles, excuse me. Okay, so the timing of a healthy period is the sum of 3 main phases. The follicular phase, which can last anywhere from 7 to 21 days, ovulation, which is 1 day, the luteal phase, which lasts 10 to 16 days. And just to be clear, your ovulation happens within a fertile week. So even though ovulation officially happens one day in that week, you are fertile that whole week. If you're an adult, it all adds up to a healthy menstrual cycle anywhere between 21 and 35 days. And so that's 21 days on average, but it's really not the rule. And so the timing of your healthy cycle is really determined by three important events in your ovaries. First, your ovarian follicles enter a final race to ovulation. This stage, called your follicular phase, again takes approximately 2 weeks, though it can be shorter or longer. Then you have ovulation, which takes about 1 day. And finally, you have the luteal phase, which again takes about 14 days. So if you listen to these important events, you'll see that a healthy period starts with healthy follicles. So your follicular phase begins when a few follicles, usually 6 to 8, enter the final days of their race to ovulation. So it's important to understand that the total lifespan of each follicle is much longer than just a 2 to 3 weeks of that follicular phase. So if you have your notes out and you're taking notes in your journal or notebook or on your phone, I want you to take note of that, okay? That a healthy period starts with healthy follicles, and those healthy follicles have a lifespan that's much longer than the follicular phase. So repairing your period, you can make such headway in 30 days, even in 60 days. But when you start getting into about 4 months of consistent effort, you will see such great benefit to it, and you'll see improvement because you have to give your follicles consistent nourishment over the months to see the improvement in the follicular and then onto the menstrual phase. So your follicles actually started their race to ovulation months before. It takes 100 days. You hear me? 100 days for your follicles to mature from their dormant state all the way to ovulation. So if you're watching, this replay, I want you to take note and drop a hashtag 100 days, because that's how long it takes. Okay. Whoever has joined me, please say hello. Hey, Jessica, I think you've joined the live. How are you this morning? I hope you're getting something from this topic. So hashtag 100 days. Your follicles need 100 days of consistent nutrition to do well, okay? If your follicles were unhealthy for any part of that maturation process, the result could be a period problem months down the line. So when you see it this way, you can understand why period health is a long-term project. You have to be committed and dedicated to these healthy habits every day. Your period problem now that you're experiencing this month with this cycle could be the result of something that was happening with your health months ago. So I'm so glad you're doing well, Jessica. Thank you for tuning in live. So I want you to think about where you are in your cycle. Drop the day that you're on right now. So I just ovulated yesterday. So now I'm heading into my luteal phase. What day are you on? Where are you at in your cycle? So literally my experience in the next 2 weeks, it's going to be informed by how I've been nourishing myself over the last 4 months. So Jessica, you're on day 3. How's your cycle going so far? And can you connect the dots back from day 3 today and 4 months ago, what you were doing in your health? Look at where were your stress levels? What was your nutrition like? Were you getting movement in every day? Were you well hydrated? Were you eating nutrient dense foods and lots of healthy fats? So when your follicles enter the final stage of their development, your follicular phase, things really start to heat up. So this is when the pituitary hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, pushes you closer to ovulation and stimulates your follicles to make estrogen. So we're hearing two big buzzwords here: FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and estrogen. So when we talk about our hormones and we talk about getting our lab work done, and you start to look at your levels, I want you to make the connection, the very real connection between where your levels are, where they take part in the importance of these key events in your menstrual cycle, the symptoms that you're having, and then you get the roadmap and the keys to be able to repair your period. And that's okay, Jessica. Like, it's not about perfection, right? Like this month, going into June rather, our theme is progress and presence over perfection. Yes, stress is so huge, right? It's going to affect the development of those follicles, and the follicles are kicking it off. They're like on this race to be able to ovulate, right? So I think what the best thing we can do is make a plan, right? On how we can really pour into ourselves for the next 4 months. So I want to encourage you, Jessica, to just wipe the slate clean, start new today, get committed to yourself, get committed to the next 100 days. Even if you got to write that somewhere that you can see it every day, hashtag 100 days, to remember that that 100 days is going to determine the quality of your period 4 months from now, okay? Your developing follicles release an important estrogen called estradiol. Estradiol is not your only estrogen, okay? You also have estrogen from fat tissue, and a number of estrogen metabolites made by your gut bacteria, okay? So when y'all hear me screaming about gut health, there's a reason why. But estradiol is the estrogen made by your developing follicles, and it's your best estrogen. So again, when you're looking at your lab work, I want you to pay attention to that estradiol. Where is it in the ranges, okay? And like I said yesterday, with lab work, they are paying attention to the norm, the bell curve of all women that get tested, and creating a norm range of those women. But that does not mean that that's your ideal range for optimal functioning, for happiness and well-being, and a great period experience every month. So you want to know what the optimal ranges are. If you need assistance with that, drop hashtag support or reach out to me directly, and we can talk about making sure that you are in that optimal range, and I'll look over your lab work with you. So let's get back to estradiol. We've talked about what so far? FSH. We talked about estradiol. All right. These are important. Let's pay attention to what these important hormones are. Estradiol is your happy hormone, or your yang hormone, like the more masculine, active, stimulating hormone. It stimulates mood and your libido because it boosts the neurotransmitter serotonin. Serotonin boosts that feeling of well-being and happiness. So think about how you feel when you're in that follicular phase and you're getting ready to ovulate. We all usually feel more outgoing. We feel happier. We feel more externally focused. And that's because we get this boost of serotonin from estradiol. However, if our gut health is compromised, if we're not making enough of estradiol, and there's an overabundance of estrogen metabolites and estrone from your fat tissue, This can interrupt the process of you being able to naturally boost the mood and feel happy at this part of your cycle. And so it also stimulates dopamine, okay, which is associated with motivation and pleasure. That's why you feel like really ready to go. You feel kind of excited, like you really want to hang out with your girl or be around your man. You feel kind of your sexual energy is high. You may feel more orgasmic. You may be more self-lubricating in the vagina. There's a lot of good pleasurable things happening when that estradiol is in the proper ratio. So estradiol has many other benefits for your bones, muscles, brain, heart, sleep, skin, and metabolism. For example, estradiol enhances your sensitivity to insulin. If you have insulin PCOS, tune into this and hear me, okay? And if you're just joining, please say hello. Let me know that you're here with me. I would love to see who's been able to join in live. And let me know if this is resonating with you. Are you starting to see where the breakdown might be with your hormones, Yeah, so hey y'all, if you have insulin resistant PCOS, pay attention. Estradiol enhances your sensitivity to insulin. Do you hear that? So that means just by paying attention to that one hormone in your lab work, just by paying attention to your gut health and changing your body composition. This is not just about losing weight, because you could be losing muscle mass, you could be losing water weight and not be losing fat, but pure fat loss and gaining muscle. These things will help you to become more insulin sensitive naturally without medication, without pharmaceuticals of any kind. You have a lot of control over your mood, over your libido, over your metabolism, over the health of your skin, over your insulin sensitivity. Okay, so period repair is a big deal because it informs so much of our daily satisfaction with life. One of estradiol's main jobs is to stimulate your uterine lining to grow and thicken and prepare for a potential baby. We get ready for a baby every month. It's so wild. But it's quite simple. The more estradiol you have, the thicker your uterine lining and the heavier your period will be. Estradiol also stimulates a unique type of vaginal discharge called fertile mucus. So it really plays a part in your fertility, in how heavy your period will be. So as your follicular race proceeds, eventually one or more, sometimes two, of your follicles reach the finish line. So the winning dominant follicle, one that was matured and healthy, it swells and then it's triggered by another key hormone, luteinizing hormone, LH. LH, you've probably seen that in your paperwork. So if you have adrenal PCOS, but also have insulin resistance, then the same thing applies, okay? So adrenal PCOS begins usually from extended periods of stress and an increase in your androgens. Insulin resistance, of course, develops from also increasing androgens, but also an increased intolerance to carbohydrates. So for you, it will be very important when you're dealing with both to determine what the dominant is. And if you're saying it's adrenal, then you would see about healing the adrenal issues first, and then move on to solely focusing on insulin resistance if it's a more minor issue. Either way, increasing your intake of saturated animal fats, healthy fats is going to help tremendously. Paying attention to each part of your cycle is going to help, whether you have any of the four PCOS subtypes, which is post-pill, inflammatory, adrenal, and insulin resistance. If you're not sure what your subtype is, you can take the quiz. I'll drop that link after the live so you can take the quiz and figure that out. So that other key hormone in your cycle, luteinizing hormone, LH, you're going to see that in your lab work, okay? And it triggers and finally ruptures that follicle to finally rupture and release the egg, okay? The release of the egg is when we ovulate. And that final stage of swelling can take a few hours, but the event itself, the release of the egg, is just a few minutes. So as the egg ruptures out of the ovary, you may notice some mild pain on one or both sides of your lower pelvis. See, look, ovulation is an all or nothing event. You cannot sort of ovulate. So you either ovulate or you don't. Once you have ovulated, there's no going back. Your egg has been released. It cannot be recalled, okay? So you will either be pregnant or you will get your period approximately 2 weeks later. There's no third option. It's not possible to ovulate, then not get pregnant or get your period. So if you are not having a period, 9 times out of 10, that is because you're not ovulating. This is also why birth control pills and hormonal birth control methods really don't actually cause you to have a menstrual cycle. They just cause you to bleed. Because if you do not ovulate, you do not then 2 weeks later have the hormonal signal to shed the lining of the uterus. Ovulation is so key. It does not matter if you're trying to get pregnant. It triggers other hormonal indicators throughout the entire cycle, okay? So it's very important for your overall health to tend to your period, to tend to your fertility. Because ovulation is how you make progesterone. After ovulation, things start to get real interesting. That's when you've emptied your follicle and it restructures itself into a progesterone secreting gland called the corpus luteum. That is so amazing because your corpus luteum, it forms really rapidly and it grows from virtually nothing to a full 4-centimeter structure in less than 1 day that has its own vascularity. So it has its own blood flow. There is nowhere else in the body, where you develop a tissue from scratch in such a short period of time and get blood supply to that structure so fast. Well, let's take a moment and just shout out to our bodies because we're amazing. And we do this every month. We're powerful, divine, feminine, beautiful beings that have a superpower where every month we build a whole 4-centimeter structure in less than a day. But that also tells you how crucial it is to be well nourished because you need nourishment to build this corpus luteum. So let's talk about that. Corpus luteum is a dynamic and vital tissue. And remember, it's the final stage of the follicle's 100-day journey to ovulation. Hashtag 100 days, right? The health of your corpus luteum is affected by everything that affected your follicles during those 100 days. For example, your corpus luteum can be affected by inflammation, thyroid disease, a problem with insulin. It can be affected by deficiencies in nutrients like magnesium and B vitamins and vitamin D, iodine, zinc, and selenium. Your follicle requires good health and nutrition for a solid 100 days. And then it must still have enough oomph, enough vitality to form a 4-centimeter corpus luteum gland in 1 day. So imagine how much it's pulling from your nutrient stores to be able to create this structure for you. And it's an ovarian triathlon. Okay, we are going through so much in just a short amount of time every single month. So I cannot reiterate how important it is to have general health and nutrition, to check on nutrient deficiencies, to check on your hormonal imbalances, see where things are, so you can have a really targeted map to understand what you need to do to repair your period. So once we have that corpus luteum, it is a progesterone generating structure, right? Well, gland, let me say that. Progesterone, that's the next key one. Hashtag progesterone, honey. I don't know if I spelled it right. Yeah, I did. Okay. Progesterone is your calming hormone. It's like your reward for passing the ovulation finish line and making the corpus luteum. It's like the key hormone for period health, okay? So progesterone is made by your corpus luteum, and it's really, really beneficial. It is so beneficial. It cannot be said enough. And progesterone's biggest job is to hold and nourish a pregnancy, right? Which is how it's got its name. It literally means progestation hormone, but we shortened it to progesterone. But it does so much more than for you than just pregnancy. So again, don't think that paying attention to progesterone and estradiol and all the things is just about having a baby. It's so much bigger than this, okay? Progesterone counterbalances estrogen. It's like the yin to estrogen's yang, okay? Where it helps you to be more internally focused and calm. It boosts your mood. It thins your uterine lining, whereas estrogen thickens it. So think about when you hear somebody say estrogen dominant. Have you heard that term before? If you have, let me know. Estrogen dominant. If you're estrogen dominant, that means that the estrogen is outweighing the progesterone at these key parts of your menstrual cycle, where progesterone should be kicking in here to thin the uterine lining. If you have an overabundance of estrogen from a compromised gut, from excessive body fat percentage, it will thicken instead of thin the uterine lining. Can you see how this is starting to play in to your experience? Progesterone prevents breast cancer while estrogen promotes it. Progesterone boosts thyroid hormone while estrogen suppresses it. Progesterone stimulating effect on your thyroid is how it raises your body temperature in your luteal phase. Do you see how many things progesterone is doing? By thinning your uterine lining, progesterone can lighten your period. It has so many other superpowers. It reduces inflammation, builds muscle, promotes sleep, protects against heart disease, calms the nervous system, and makes it easier to cope with stress. Progesterone calms the nervous system because it converts to a neurosteroid called allopregnanolone, ALLO. ALLO. This is a very important neurotransmitter, neurosteroid rather. One of the worst things about hormonal birth control is that it robs you of the calming, mood enhancing effects of progesterone and allopregnanolone. Allo, ALLO. Remember, the progestin drugs in hormonal birth control are progestins, not progesterone. Progestins do not convert to calming aloes. That neurosteroid, allopregnanolone, which is why so many of us have anxiety. And it literally alters the shape of your brain. Did you know that? That always blows my mind. It alters the shape of your brain when you have progestin versus progesterone. I don't know about you, but that's mind blowing for me. If you didn't know that, drop the hashtag mind blown. I'm going to say that again. In hormonal birth control, these are progestin. Let me write that in the chat. Progestin is what is inside hormonal birth control. And these drugs are not progesterone, which is the naturally occurring hormone in our bodies. Progestins do not convert to calming allopregnanolone, which could be why they cause anxiety and alter the shape of your brain. When it comes to healthy periods, it's mostly about progesterone. So I had planned to just be here for 15 minutes today, but this is just so good. I want you to get it. Okay. So when you go back and you're looking at your notes, or you rewatch this, or you're watching this replay, I want you to think about those key points in your menstrual cycle, the key hormones, and where you're at, and what could be disrupting and causing your issues. I want you to commit to staying hydrated, dropping that sugar and processed foods, eating healthy fats, moving, and practicing stress relief. If you need support in getting all these habits in place, there's a couple ways I can support you. You can join my wellness group, Reset. We're starting our 30-day challenge for Black women reversing PCOS inside that group on the 1st. And I also can help you one-to-one. So if you'd like to explore what that might look like, and how I can potentially support you, drop a hashtag support or reach out to me directly with a message, and we can see if it's a good fit. But either way, take action and take these keys that I've given you today and dedicate yourself to the next 100 days being the best 100 days you've ever given your body, so that you can begin this period repair process. I'll be right here again tomorrow at 10 a.m. with another Facebook Live. I would love to see your thoughts. Chime in on that daily post. Let me know how it's going with that ditch the sugar detox. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.